Welcome to this episode of the People Dividend. I'm your host, Mike Horne, and I am thrilled to have in the virtual studio today Jamie Graceffa. And he is, for everyone in our listening audience, very much a kindred spirit related to the topics of human resources development, talent, inclusion, organization development. And Jamie right now is the Vice President of Talent Development, Culture, and Inclusion at Quantarix and the author of Kind Cards and Career Control. He's a speaker, he's a board member, and you can find him up and down the East Coast in Boston and in Tampa. And I'm really delighted, Jamie, that you're here and want to hear all about what you're doing with kindness. But maybe let's just start out. Introduce yourself and what was your origin story to this talent and inclusion work you do?
Thank you, Mike. First of all, and it's also a thrill to be with you. So thank you very much for having me. I sort of stumbled into it officially in 2020. So if I back up before 2020, when I was doing L&D and an HR business partner, how we behave at work was always part of what I did. I just had to include it in whatever sessions or materials or processes. In 2020, during the midst of a pandemic, I made a job change. And I was originally supposed to be the head of learning and talent management for a global company. And I asked during the process, the interview process, who is the culture and inclusion person? Because I need to speak with them. Our work is very connected. And I found out they did not have one. And they asked me to take it on. So I said, oh, okay. How hard could it be? Knowing that it would be a big lift. I was always an ally, always a supporter, but I never let it. So I really had to immerse myself into the whole employee experience, the whole employee life cycle, from the minute we speak to you to the moment you decide to leave and everything in between. What does that look like? And I really had to scale up. So I would say it's always been in my career, but as of 2020 being the head of leading it, it has been front of mind, especially during these changing times of what is a company to do when it comes to creating an employee experience and making sure all voices are heard and we're inclusive.
I came really to the HR generalist, HR business partner role, HR executive role, following a career in consulting and learning and organization development. And I always found that so much of my time was occupied by employee relations. And it was in contrast to where I started my career, which was as an employee and labor relations manager, handling grievances and it was ultimately very tiring sort of work, and that's why I switched into organization development because it was a little more exciting and challenging and a way to put people in a positive perspective. Um, and you know, Yet when I moved into HR executive roles, it was a lot of just employee relations for executives. I mean, how do you bring that? I mean, if you're head of people and culture and inclusion and all that kind of stuff, I mean, how do you find balance in that, Jamie?
That is a great question. Um, and it's not always easy. Let me just start there. It's, I think when I'm working with the executive levels, the executive teams, we're talking about the teams they lead. I need to make sure the conversation is about that team they're on as well, because they matter to as leaders. And I talk about this with all of them. When I check in with them, and I check in with our CFO or our CTO, I said, forget about the teams you lead. How are you doing? How are the dynamics with you and your team? What's your work experience like? Because you matter as well. They can be just as disengaged, upset, not feeling heard as the people that they lead. And then add on top of that, they are asked to be so many things to so many people because of their role. So I make sure that when we're talking about the teams they lead, we're talking about the teams they're on, and just kind of creating that space for them to say, hey, there could be opportunities for some kind of dynamic shift with the team. and talking to them about what that can look like. I'm very lucky. I have a very awesome chief people officer who is very in tune to that and tries to make sure that's happening at the ELT level. When I'm working with my peers and colleagues at the VP level, it's the same script. It's talking about what their experience is like, and then moving it down from the team, the teams they lead, and just really trying to get their take on the collaboration, the dynamics of what's happening with them, and getting to see the value and the benefits to it. But I think what really helps, Mike, is asking them about their experience as an employee, leader second, employee first. And I think that it's a mindset shift for them, and they're definitely in the space to speak more about it and kind of put that lens on.
I always thought that talented organization development, people, talent inclusion, folks made for very good chief human resources officer, chief people officers. And I think that's because people in those fields bring a systems perspective. And that's so helpful when you're leading an organization, because certainly the role of the HR person has, in many organizations, really dramatically changed. It's not just about a seat at the table, and it hasn't been, that was 10 years ago maybe, but it's about being engaged in the business differently and understanding how important engagement is to innovation.
You're absolutely right. And I think you're right. I think that background or that lens makes great people leaders. It's when you encounter leaders who are great at the technical job or the technical role that they're in, where there can be some resistance to the people part. It doesn't mean that they don't value it or they don't appreciate it. It's just not where their mind goes first. It's not as intuitive to people like us versus people who just don't have less of a people-centric role. So I do need to spend some time with them, kind of discovering where the resistance is to paying attention to the people part, slowing down how they move through their workday and looking at the dynamics, analyzing the dynamics, and then taking action when we need to take action when the dynamics aren't where we want them to be. I mean, if I utter the word kindness, empathetic leadership, I get some kind of looks that I'm sure you've gotten in your career when you kind of did that type of work. It's like, what do you mean kindness at work? What are we going to sit around the campfire and hold hands? I'm sure you've heard that a million times. So I have to get in front of that and say, no, that's not what I'm talking about. This is what a kinder workplace can look like. And this is what it is, and this is what it's not. And then trying to get under there, because all managers are wired a little bit differently about their approach to human beings at work.
It's so interesting to consider this, because the topics that many HR leaders are dealing with in 2025, here we are at mid-year, many of the topics that that HR leaders are dealing with look a lot like the issues they dealt with in 2024 and 2023. I mean, people are still dealing with post-COVID issues, return to work issues. What about culture in organizations? What about 4-day work weeks? I mean, it's much of the same that people have been dealing with in 2025. And yet, I think there are these fundamental shifts that are certainly occurring with job disruption, the advance of the gig economy, where people put together multiple jobs, the erosion of middle management. Most managers work now, and that's just a reality. Spans of control have increased, and with the erosion of middle management, there goes a focus on some learning and development and professional development for employees. Certainly the advance of artificial intelligence and how that changes jobs, and whether it makes people work more or work less. And again, sort of, continuing consolidation. And you're very much, coming out of some values on compassion and kindness. And when I think about my newest book, The People Dividend, I mean, it is really all about dignity, kindness, and respect. I mean, these are the principles that I describe that given all of these conditions, gig economy, low engagement, still dealing with what it means to have team and location, that these are the solutions for the modern work era.
Mhm.
It's a return to humanistic values. It's about dignity, kindness, and respect in the workplace. What think you, Jamie Graceffa?
So when we were talking about 2020, when I took to the culture role, what I understood people that led culture, what they try to do is make it so uniform, right? To make it the same, whether you're in the office and you're out of the office. And it can't be. You have to take that off your shoulder to think you're going to make a culture that is uniform and, the people at home or gig work or anything like that. It is impossible to do. You can have a different culture, one cube set over, one floor under in a building, because what it really boils down to is how you are treated by the people you work for and with. That to me is culture. Yes, you need to have good benefits, and I think you have to have, people want to be paid fairly, and the work needs to be interesting. But it's mostly about how you're treated at work. Now, we have more people at home that are in the office at times, depending on where we are in the day of the week. And if we teach everybody, managers and individual contributors, what it means to be kind to your colleagues, I think the culture will take care of itself, right? So, yes, we have to have these values and we need to get things done. But if we go beyond the basic ask of what a company says, which is, hey, if you're going to work here, treat people with respect. Okay. If we can go beyond that basic expectation and take it a step further and be kinder to each other. So that's a concept that people, all right, well, what does that look like? And it means simple steps, not over engineering anything, just say thank you. I know that seems basic, Mike, but it's crazy how many people forget to do that. Saying hello, good morning, extending grace to your colleague if they made a mistake, giving them the benefit of the doubt, checking in on your remote colleagues if or any colleague that doesn't see themselves. It may seem very simple, but it's often missed. And I don't think it's because we don't want to be kind. I think we're just moving through the workday very quickly. And sometimes we forget the people who work with us who are not in the same room with us. So it's really trying to get the organization to be kinder and being more aware of how they're coming across to their colleagues. And this goes all the way up to the executive team, right? Even the teams I'm on. And I would say, when you make your mistake next, when you step in it with your colleague again, because it's not if, it's when you will do it. It's how you circle back and rectify the situation that will really make that relationship stronger. So I couldn't agree with you more about bringing the elements of your book that you talked about in these basic acts of kindness, dignity, and respect back to the workplace. And again, it is we still need the reminder. We still need the reminder. Again, I think the intention is there, but then the workday starts and we forget.
Yes, I often think that our oldest and best technology to create inclusion is what I learned from Fred Miller and Judith Katz, who have been guests on the People Dividend twice and pioneers in the world of inclusion. What Fred and Judith taught me is that our most accessible technology to create inclusion is to say hello.
Yes.
Too often I think we know that in men and women of the corporation, we treat each other as elements of production. It's really how can you do how fast can you do this? How soon can you do this? And yeah, Jamie, you're pioneering some stuff with kindness and kindness cards or recognition. What's that all about?
Well, it was kind of goes back to, well, what is culture? And I'm leading it. How do I make it easier? And then it's the revelation that it's really how we're treated. And what I realized, Mike, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this, but I think of kindness as a skill set, right? I think some people are just simply better at kindness than others. And all we need is the will to grow and understand it a little bit more. So because I've been doing HR now for, God, maybe 30 years, I think. I stopped counting. Um, it's, I'm finding it that people just need a little help in that area. So that's what I try to do at work. I try to instill elements of kindness. I call it kindness in motion in our L&D programs, in our mentor programs. We have a newsletter that comes out quarterly, and I have a culture corner. And I do 5 things that you can do to your fellow colleagues right now to be a better colleague. I also didn't find that there were any tools on the market out there really that are teaching kindness. So I developed a deck of cards to help leaders and help managers, develop their kindness skills to use with their teams.
And what
And
are some of the kindness behaviors, Jamie? What are some of the, can you talk about 2 or 3 of them?
sure, definitely. The one that keeps coming up, Mike, is benefit of the doubt. I see it over and over again. Somebody gets an email that just upsets them. It could be the tone, and I get it. Written communication is hard to interpret, but they get an email. Or somebody comes to a meeting and they appear distracted. They're looking at their phone. You don't know why you're looking at their phone, but you go right to, I think it's human nature, they're not interested, they're bored, they don't want to be here, but you don't know if that person is waiting for a text message to see how their mom's doing because they're in surgery. You just don't know these things. Somebody is not where you want them to be. Somebody gives you a look in the hallway as they walk down. Whatever it is that causes that upset, if you just shift and say, oh, there could be something going on there. Let me check in with them instead of going to defense. Another one is that just active inclusion in a meeting. And what I mean by that is just take a look. Anybody that's listening, take a look at your next meeting. Who is speaking the most? Is it somebody that has positional power? Is it a strong extrovert? It's giving everybody a chance to speak their mind, regardless of level, regardless of MBTI type or whatever, DISC, discovery, whatever it is, and giving a chance for people to speak up. I think when you acknowledge someone's work, my goodness, does it really make a difference? And I don't mean people that maybe roll up to senior leaders. If you see a senior leader do something that's awesome, or they spoke about something that really resonated with you, go tell them. There's a card on thank a senior leader. They don't get thanked a lot. There's saying hello is actually one, because I love how you quoted that person, because it is so simple, but it makes a huge difference when you say hello. One other one I'll give you, I know you asked for 2 or 3, but I'll just go, sharing credit. If you're in a meeting and someone's saying, oh, Mike, you did a fantastic job, and it was maybe Mike and Jamie, you'd be like, you know what, thank you for that. Jamie was also a big part of this as well. And these are not big deals. These are just very simple actions that we can take. And what I'm trying to do is get people to move from awareness to actually saying it. So you can be in the meeting and you can see something, but I just need you to go to the extra step and say something or do something different. So it's these little reminders that really help everybody, help at every level of the company if we're kinder to each other. Now, kindness doesn't mean we withhold our opinion. It doesn't mean that we allow poor performance at all. It doesn't mean we disagree or argue our point. It's just the manner in which these conversations are had.
I think there's so many important points in terms of these conversations we have with others in the workplace. And one is certainly this element of presence that you mentioned. I often counsel my clients that when you meet with people through a series of endless meetings throughout the day, you don't know what happened to that person 5 minutes before you were meeting with them, or what's going to happen with them 5 minutes after. So you have an opportunity in that interaction to be present. And, most of my clients have pretty practiced interpersonal skills. They're able to nod their head. So it's to be able to get out of that prepared response and to be present at that moment. And that's one of the great gifts that you bring in that interaction. And I talk less and less about culture today in my client work and redesigning organizations and other organization development interventions, and more about community and what it
Mm,
means to be part of a community. And I think it's a way that people bring that about. And recently I wrote a proposal uh, for a prospect on civility in the workplace and how we would engage this whole system, this large healthcare system, in civility. And maybe what I should have done was just listed it as here are 10 kindness behaviors, thinking about it to make it easy and accessible, because so many people are still struggling with, when do we talk about inclusion? When do we talk about diversity? And then we talk about civility. So lots of different ways into that conversation, because what's fundamental is that we have differences, and these differences are manifested at work in so many ways. And therefore, this ability to create interaction in a genuine, authentic manner is essential to leading in the modern era.
yes, I love everything you just said.
Mm.
It just hit me right in the soul there because um, kindness is a tricky word in the workplace. But I said I made the decision to use it over empathetic leadership because I don't know if that lands the same way. We are taught kindness when we're kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Share your sandwich, be nice, play nice with the other people. It's a word that may have different interpretations, but we all kind of know what it means. And that's why I like it. I'm telling you, you should have seen the side eye rolls, the eye rolls and the side eyes when I said to a bunch of senior leaders, we're going to talk about kindness and being kind to one another. I'm like, all right, tell me why you're looking at me that way. But I think it resonates and we understand the concept. And I love what you're talking about. I just have these workshopping kindness sessions. Let's workshop kindness. Let's talk about what it is, what it's not. When was somebody last kind to you at work? How did it make you feel? When did you last see an act of kindness? What kindness skills are you good at? What kindness skills do you think would better the team? What kind of skills do you want to develop? It's a whole conversation when they see, oh, you're not asking me to do these huge equations. You're asking me to maybe say hello and say, how was your weekend? Okay, I think I can do that. And just keeping the awareness there.
That's great. And awareness is really fundamental to any step in any change process. So, Jamie, if people wanted to continue this discussion or get in touch with you, we'll have this all in the links that you'll provide, the social
Absolutely.
links. But we'll just tell the audience right now, in case people want to jot it, make a mental note.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Jamie Graceffa on LinkedIn. And I'll provide the other links for you. That's the one that I think most people can get me at. I'm pretty active
Great.
on LinkedIn.
Thanks. Once again, it's just been fabulous to be in conversation with Jamie Graceffa, advancing these ideas of kindness and pioneering work about kindness in workplaces, and a great conversation about uh, bringing the possible and potential to work organizations. Jamie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike, very much. It was wonderful speaking with you.
Yeah, and until the next episode of the People Dividend, stay well.